I'm very honored and excited to be here. We are here with Carissa Lintao,
Yes.
CEO and founder of Apptuitive.
Yep, that's me.
So I'm not sure if you heard about her yet. I'm sure you guys will soon, but she is literally crushing how apps market themselves in the App Store. So Carissa, could you tell us a little bit of what your day-to-day is like?
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, the day-to-day is different literally every single day.
Right.
But for right now, it's a lot of, brand building. So working on my personal brand as well as Apptuitive's brand. And that's always going hand in hand with getting more projects. So I'm the one that's trying to go out constantly, sending out proposals, trying to get more work in, but at the same time with that, trying to figure out how to provide the most value to each and every single one of my clients in their own unique way.
Absolutely. So one of the things I love about your website is that you have a section for free proposals.
Mm-hmm.
And just out of curiosity, how effective is that in getting new clients?
Everyone loves free.
Right?
You cannot go wrong with giving away anything for free. Because it's just like a little taste of what you're offering. You can provide just a little bit of that upfront value just to give people a sense of, how you operate, how you're going to talk to them, which is like the most important thing. I read something where it's like, how do you separate yourself, even as a company? It's like, if you're just relying on your services and products, you're going to be in basically a race with everyone else. There's nothing that differentiates you, but what it's going to come down to is the service. Because people only want to work with good people and people that only genuinely want to help them get to the next level. So it's why I put a lot of importance on, I guess finding the right type of client to work with and trying to find ways to work with them, even if they're not being the most cooperative or the most understanding. So that's why I'm really careful about who I work with. I want to make sure that I can manage them in the right way. So
1,000%. I feel like that's probably one of the biggest challenges as an entrepreneur and then a founder like yourself, is that you have to figure out what is right, not only for your client's vision and their brand, but also Apptuitive itself.
Yeah, exactly. It's so important.
Yeah. So you have been able to do something that I'm sure a lot of people dream about doing every single day.
Yeah.
So you have the pleasure of getting lost in your work on a daily basis. What does that feel like?
Just like I'm so incredibly blessed and fortunate to have that honor and privilege. It's really like a privilege, and if you don't understand that you doing your own thing is a privilege, you don't deserve to be here at all.
Right?
Because there are so many people dying to be in my position and just dying to have freedom and the ability to work on their own terms, have the ability to work whenever they want, wherever they want, with whoever they want.
That's the key, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it's an incredible experience, and I'm extremely grateful and try to practice mindfulness and gratefulness every single day. So
That's amazing. I love what you said.
thank you.
And out of curiosity, what inspired you to go off and be that brave and adventurous in conquering being an entrepreneur and a business owner?
So it's funny, like everyone's like, oh my God, you're so courageous, and so you're doing this, and I'm just like, oh wow, it doesn't feel like that.
Really?
At
Okay.
all. No, I felt like this is the work I'm kind of meant to be doing at this specific time.
Purpose, right?
Yeah, having purpose in your work and just knowing and having comfort with the fact that this is what I'm meant to be doing right now, and I'm going to live every single day out with intention. So yeah.
So for people who don't understand what App Store optimization is, could you actually explain and totally plug Apptuitive?
Yeah. So ASO, App Store Optimization, at the end of the day, it's basically SEO for the App Store. So search engine optimization.
I love
for
that
the App Store.
I love that
I know,
comparison.
But yeah, that's the easiest way to explain it. So if you're trying to look for a meditation app and you type in, meditation in the App Store, it's my job to make sure, that my clients or the apps are showing up within top 10, or they have the best shot at ranking for those highly competitive keywords that people are searching for. So a lot of it plays off of trends in society. Like the better half of my work is meditation apps and dating apps. So
Okay.
yeah, it's really interesting to see how society plays into App Store optimization, because 70% of app downloads come directly from App Store search. So it's really interesting. There's a lot of like psychology, marketing, branding, and a lot of fun things that just play into it. It's a really fun like stopping grounds for Apptuitive and myself. So
that's very interesting.
Yeah,
because
definitely.
I feel like whenever I download a new app, I usually see the ad in like Snapchat or Instagram, but apparently you're actually more likely to download it if you just do an actual search.
Yeah, exactly. Because at the end of the day, it's intent driven. So if you're looking to find something that you have a need for, like right now, like, oh, I need like a checklist app. I have so many errands to run today, and I want to make sure like I have everything set for the week. You're going to search for a to-do list app. And then you're more likely to download it than you are seeing an ad, which you're not going to be, it's not showing up in the right context a lot of the time. You don't have the need for it right away. So if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, that makes complete sense, and very clever as well. So what has been one of the biggest challenges and or surprises being an entrepreneur?
Challenges. I feel like everything is a challenge.
Well, maybe getting used to that, right?
Yeah, getting used to, because I need a structure. Like I didn't think I would be doing this when I was in high school or like even in college. It's like I need a routine usually, but it's just like a surprise every single day. It's just like, oh, you're in a Forbes article. It's just like, what? That's so random. Like I guess that's like so cool though. Sometimes you don't have work for like 2 weeks, a month at a time. Like that's something that people don't really talk about. Like it's stressful. So it's either really high or really low. There's no like nice little routine, So I guess in that sense, not knowing what's coming next is kind of stressful for me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you kind of alluded to it at the beginning of the interview. So sometimes I feel like as a writer who has a marketing mindset, sometimes you tend to forget about the most important client, which is yourself.
Exactly.
To get your brand out there, as opposed to, obviously clients are important, but at the same time, if they didn't know who you are, then it won't ever be your client.
Yeah, exactly. So honing in on your craft and just figuring out, what makes you and figuring out the best way how to operate, the best way to interact with clients is extremely important.
1000%. And you majored in marketing at Thomas Edison, which is in Trenton, which is pretty cool.
No plug. No plug. I didn't learn anything there.
And I was about to say, so how much do you learn from
absolutely nothing
versus actually doing it? Yeah.
No, it's funny because everyone's always like, you have to have learned something in college. Like this is, the greatest 4 years of your life. This is where you shape your career. Just like I learned absolutely nothing about marketing there. Absolutely nothing. Probably the only thing that I've learned was Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Oh, well, that's very important to marketing.
It wasn't
besides
even
that,
like the first time I learned about it. It was more of just like, getting a little bit more in depth into it. But that's literally the only thing. I feel like this is one of my unpopular opinions, but marketing shouldn't even be taught if the course materials aren't in the year that we're currently living in.
Thank you.
I don't know why it's so hard to.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say some of the best marketers never, finish school.
Exactly, because everything's constantly changing. I mean, marketing at the end of the day is the practice of getting your product or yourself in front of your customer. And the way you go about doing that is constantly changing. Yes, there are certain underlying principles, but I didn't even learn the underlying principles of psychology, branding, and those types of things. I didn't learn that in college at all.
Right.
During the times, the 4 years I was in college and interning, I had podcasts and videos, keynotes from Stanford, eLab, Harvard, Gary Vee, Seth Godin, just constantly reading books. I was constantly in the library, practically lived in the library when I wasn't, at my internships. But I had headphones in all the time, just trying to get, supplementary learning. So filling in the gaps, what I wasn't learning in college, I was basically crowdsourcing from a ton of other people. So no plug for Thomas Edison University, or no plug for them.
I mean, because what you said literally reminds me of one of my favorite quotes from Jim Rohn, who says, conventional education will earn you a living, but self-education will earn you a fortune.
Exactly.
You're going to
Yeah,
learn more
that's
when
great,
you're when you're doing more.
Exactly. Yeah.
So what was it like meeting Gary Vee?
Oh yeah. So again, I was just super fortunate enough to be casted on a PBS documentary called Road Trip Nation.
Nice.
It was basically me and 2 other road trippers, Jordan and Alicia, road tripping across the U.S., doing basically this, meeting other entrepreneurs, thought leaders, visionaries across the U.S., and just asking them questions that we actually needed answers to.
How cool is that?
Yeah, it was one of the greatest life experiences I'll ever have, and I'm like super grateful to them for that. But meeting Gary, it was funny because I don't get starstruck, and I feel like when I met him, I still wasn't even starstruck. But I guess to give you like the backstory, they saved like the seat closest to Gary for me. So like that was Gary, and I was like literally right here.
And they saved it just for you.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
He was my favorite like idol, basically. But basically, I hear him coming to the room, and I'm just thinking, I'm just like, oh crap, like, he's right there. I was just like, time to die. And he just sat there, and I was like, wow, this is so, it was so unreal. Because it wasn't even about Gary, so to say, the interaction. It was more about me kind of working my way up to even have the chance to have this opportunity to stay in the same room as him.
Right.
It was about that. But then during the interview, we were introducing ourselves. I was like, okay, I'm Carissa. I'm launching my own marketing agency for Apptuitive, and I think he touched my leg or something like that. He was like, congratulations, and I was like, I just went speechless. I was like, but then he jumped in and kind of like revitalized the conversation, but it was so embarrassing. But it was a crazy, like, unreal experience.
So what was the biggest aha moment, the biggest takeaway that you had from just being around him?
From Gary?
Right.
Okay. Well, it's funny that people think, meeting Gary is going to be something different than what he's saying in his videos, and it's really not.
Exactly.
What he's saying in his videos is like exactly what he says in real life.
I feel like you can feel that energy even more when you're in person, right?
Exactly, yeah, so it was just unreal. But yeah, I guess the biggest takeaway is just practice what you preach, because that's exactly what he does. And he says, he leads by example, and he actually like walks the walk.
You have to, right?
Yeah, you have to. Like, there's no way you'll survive if you don't.
Literally.
Yeah, literally. So that was probably the biggest takeaway.
And like for me, watching those videos, so totally jealous right now. Like being, not that he's like a deity or something like that, but he knows what he's talking about, and you can actually see him walk the walk, and you can see the results on all his social media pages. So I guess, were you really inspired to get back to work after talking with him?
After the road trip, I definitely was. Like, I don't think I would even be at this point if it wasn't for a road trip, because I feel like, meeting Gary, meeting all those other inspirational leaders, that really like kicked me to, actually be like those leaders. Eventually, like I said on the show, that I want to go back as a leader, and I want people to interview me one day. So that's like a goal that I really have in mind, and I want to see it through. So the biggest takeaway from the entire trip was just if you don't do anything with these experiences and like these like gifts that are given to you, if you don't do anything with it, like what are you doing? Like, you're here for a purpose. So that was the biggest thing. Is just like I want to be a leader. I don't want to be like just an agency founder, just be in it just for the profits, or just like my 5 seconds of fame, whatever that is. I want to leave like a real lasting impact through the work.
Absolutely, and essentially motivate other people.
Yeah, exactly. In the process.
And then you also had an interview with Forbes, which was pretty cool. You guys, I'll leave the link in the description, because it's an amazing article. So how did that even happen?
Yeah, so this is like a pro tip to literally any entrepreneur. Mm-hmm.
All right, guys, listen up.
Definitely. So there's a site called Harrow, if you heard of it.
I have not.
Okay, cool. So Harrow stands for Help a Reporter Out. So basically all of these reporters from high-end, you know, publications, Forbes, Huffington Post, you know, USA Today, Business Insider, they have these pieces that they want to work on, but they don't have the subject matter expertise. So they're basically looking to, you know, talk with people who actually do know what they're talking about, so they have the content. So basically like this podcast, so you have a theme in mind, but you need someone to actually talk from experience.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, exactly. So I was just scrolling through the email, and I saw, someone was asking for someone to speak on the topic of experiencing ageism in the workforce. And so, you know, I reached out, and I said, okay, hi, my name is Carissa Lintao, and these are the experiences that I went through. I'm not sure if they'll be applicable for your piece, but, you know, if you're interested, like, feel free to reach out. Anytime, I'm happy to, you know, sit down and talk with you. And so she reached back out, and I sat down, I had a nice, like, 45-minute Skype call with her. She's like,
Nice.
extremely genuine person, and we just had a great conversation about tech ethics, what I'm doing now, my plans are for the future. So yeah, that's how I came across the opportunity. So highly recommend Harrow to any entrepreneur or anyone looking to grow their personal brand.
Wow,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, of course.
One of the things I admire most about you is how much action you're taking, because it's critical, because I feel like in society, because of things like raffles and lotteries, people are like, oh, it won't pan out because it's like a 1 in a million chance or 1 in a billion chance, but that chance could be you. And the more you make a habit of taking action, the more likely that luck will happen to you.
Exactly, and that's like another thing I get asked a lot is, you know, what advice do you have for young entrepreneurs, struggling entrepreneurs?
I bet you get that question once a week at least,
yeah,
right?
I do. I'm just like, literally just do it. If you have the means to do it, just do it. You know, I'm a huge copywriting nerd and branding nerd, and, you know, Nike's slogan, it's just like one of the greatest slogans in the world.
Simple.
I know, and I'm just like, yes, it's so good. So
Yeah.
that's like you just literally have to do it.
Preaching to the choir here. So not only
Yeah,
do
yeah.
I have stock in Nike, because I
Really?
absolutely love Nike,
I mean, it's been like up straight, like since the beginning.
and it's a commodity.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we were actually talking off camera about some of our favorite copywriting, this nerding out over copywriting and how much of an impact someone like David Ogilvy has had on you.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, so we were talking about our favorite quotes. I
Yeah.
found mine from David Ogilvy, one of the, if not the greatest copywriter of all time. So, you know, one of my favorites is, "The consumer isn't a moron, she is your wife." Because at the end of the day, that person, you know, your customer in the agency world, they're your everything.
Exactly.
They literally are your wife. Like, you need to take care of them. You need to, you know, talk to them, give them what they're looking for, go above and beyond their expectations. So when he said that, like literally not lying at all, but he's definitely one of the greatest, you know, creative minds and sellers to ever walk the face of the earth.
Absolutely, and one of his philosophies that I completely subscribe to, and I actually have this on my website, joshuaring.com, right, is that he always talks about, he only works with clients that he actually uses.
Yeah.
So he was one of the, I would say, biggest reasons why Rolls-Royce has the prestige it has now, because he used to market for them. But as soon as they made a change to how they construct the car, and he wasn't a fan of it, he dropped them as a client.
Wow.
And who would drop, if you're, because he actually started out as a entrepreneur as well, just trying to collect clients as much as you could.
Yeah.
And eventually, like you said, your work will stand out for itself. But then to be in a powerful position to walk away from a brand like Rolls-Royce is just very empowering.
That's the ultimate goal, because, you know,
Yeah.
people always want to work with who they can't work with. So that scarcity and the luxury effect of
Absolutely.
you know, being able to work with a coveted agency, you know, like Ogilvy. Yeah, there's just like an incredible story, and that speaks a lot, you know, about his character and the actual work that he provided for his clients. So he's definitely a role model of mine.
1000%, and then we were also talking about a fictional role model for both of us. So Don Draper from Mad Men,
Yeah.
and who was actually created based upon the existence of David Ogilvy. So in addition to shows like Mad Men, are there any other shows that inspire you to be more, I guess, creative, and any other inspirations for innovation in the business world? Like, I know for me, we talked about Mad Men, Silicon Valley, shows like Billions, or even, you know, House of Cards.
So honestly, like Mad Men is probably the only one I can point to and be like, this was my show. Because I don't consume like a lot of media or shows or things.
Which is a good that's a good habit to have.
Yeah, but Mad Men was probably like my favorite of all time. So
1,000%.
Yeah.
And then for people who don't know you, could you actually explain like how you actually got from being a freelancer into being, essentially running the show?
Yeah, for sure. So I feel like, they say in order to be a good like a CEO or a founder, you have to get used to saying the same story like hundreds of thousands of times.
They call it the hero story
the
in marketing.
Hero story. To give you the backstory again, I was 17 years old. I couldn't find, a quote unquote real job to kind of, fund my way through college. All the Best Buy sales associate positions, all the mall positions, all closed. Couldn't get a job. Like
wow.
I still don't know why, because I feel like I'm a competent worker, so I couldn't even get like those bare minimum like jobs.
And I feel like hindsight is probably the best thing.
Yeah, 100%.
Because with all due respect to Best Buy, I feel like your talents would have been wasted there. That's just me.
But I signed up for Upwork, which is the world's largest freelancing site, and basically clients from all over the world post their jobs there, and they're looking for talent for one-off projects or gig, like the gig economy.
Right.
So I logged up there as a 17-year-old. The second gig I took on was with an independent app developer. He needed a House of Cards trivia app, and he said, I have all the technical know-how. I know how to build the app. I know how to launch it. Yada yada yada. I just don't have the actual questions and answers that people can play with on the app. So he said, come back to me with 300 questions and answers, and I'll give you $50. And I was like, bet. Because that's the equivalent of like $1,000 to me right now.
Especially at a 17-year-old, right? Like that's a lot of money.
Yeah, that's like your pay for a week-ish. I don't know, but
yeah.
It's really good pay. But I knocked the project out for what it was worth. And he said, you do really great work. You work with my custom software, which a lot of people can't even do. So I appreciate you, going the extra mile.
I mean, because you had to learn on the fly.
Yeah, exactly. You have to learn on the fly. So he said, I appreciate all the work that you're doing, creative and all of that, wrapped into one. And he said, why don't you help me build out the rest of my portfolio? And I said, okay, that sounds like a plan to me.
Yeah.
But during the time, he basically introduced me to what I call the app economy.
Ah.
So, the App Store and the whole business of the App Store. He said, it's $1 million industry. Now each category is like $1 billion industry in and of itself. He said, this is where everything is going. And this was back in like 2014, 2015, when app development was just starting to get hot.
Absolutely.
And he said, you don't even need to learn how to code. Just learn how to get an app on the App Store, learn App Store optimization, which is huge. Keep doing the creative work that you're doing, the copywriting, the branding, learn the business side of it, and you'll have a career in this. And I was like, okay. I took it with a grain of salt, like
right.
you do when you get advice. But then week after week after week, more and more projects just started falling into my lap, and they were all app-related projects. So, push notification copy for this app, onboarding copy for this app, more trivia for these apps, and then it slowly started building more and more into, I guess, the hardcore marketing side of things. So, I don't really touch the advertising side of things, but writing ad copy, so those things, getting people to actually move and tap the download button. And then, as of 2 years ago, I started getting really, extremely focused in App Store optimization. Because again, 70% of app downloads come directly from App Store search, and I figured it's by far the most value I can provide to any client, especially if they're bootstrapped as a startup.
Right.
So that's definitely like your best bang for your buck, App Store optimization. And so I started, honing my craft in on that, and as well as the branding aspect, which is something extremely different that I think I bring to the table, and it's extremely, extremely important. Because during the 4 years I've been doing this, I was thinking and brainstorming. I was like, app marketing, it really only comes down to one thing. It's like, do people actually need the app, and how do you convey that need to the person in a sentence?
Right.
It comes down to your value proposition. So, figuring out how to position different apps in the market, and building out an actual brand and not just an app that people go in. you know, whenever they need it, you know, what keeps people coming back, what makes an app brand. But that's what my day-to-day looks like as far as the work, app store optimization and branding.
Sounds pretty cool, and
Yeah.
actually reminds me of the concept I learned from Dan Locke, which is when value is clear, decisions are easy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a great quote. Yeah, no, exactly.